On March 14, 2023, at approximately 6:42 p.m., Marine veteran Caleb Reeves, 34, returned from a local grocery store to his apartment on North Milton Avenue in Baltimore, Maryland. Upon entering, he found his wife, Naomi Reeves, 29, lying face down on the floor. Standing over her body was Officer Daniel "Danny" Harmon, 41, a Baltimore Police Department officer with 15 years of service and several commendations for bravery. Harmon's firearm was drawn. According to the first responding units, he was visibly shaking and repeated several times that the victim grabbed the weapon and that it was self-defense. Caleb, holding 2 grocery bags containing milk, bread, and canned goods, did not approach. The officers who arrived within minutes later reported that he appeared frozen, expressionless, and silent. The scene was secured by patrol units from the Eastern District. The time of death was recorded at 6:51 p.m. by paramedics. Naomi Reeves sustained a single gunshot wound to the upper back. The bullet entered between the shoulder blades and exited through the chest. No powder burns were found on her hands. The official narrative established by the department stated that Officer Harmon had arrived at the Reeves residence to serve a bench warrant for Naomi's unpaid parking fines, totaling $340. According to Harmon and his 2 partners, Officers Stephen Collins and Marcus Drake, Naomi allegedly resisted the officer's attempt to hand her the warrant and attempted to seize Harmon's weapon. Harmon discharged his firearm once. Collins and Drake confirmed this version in their written statements. The internal review conducted by Captain Luis Rivera, head of internal affairs for the Eastern District, lasted 48 hours. Rivera concluded that the use of force was consistent with departmental procedures. The department expressed condolences to the Reeves family and authorized a compensation payment of $75,000 as a civil settlement. Naomi's funeral took place on March 20th at the small community cemetery in Dundalk. Family, neighbors, and several members of Caleb's former Marine unit attended. Witnesses recalled that Caleb remained silent throughout the ceremony, standing at the head of the coffin without visible emotion. For 2 hours, he held a small blue baby rattle in his hands. None of the attendees understood its meaning. He did not speak during the service and left immediately after the burial. Fellow Marines who knew him from deployment in Afghanistan later said that his demeanor reminded them of his battlefield nickname, Hawk. Quiet, watchful, detached. 1 week later, on March 27th, Caleb appeared at the Baltimore Police Department headquarters. He requested a meeting with Captain Rivera. Surveillance footage from the station lobby shows him arriving at 9:12 a.m., carrying a small envelope. The conversation between Reeves and Rivera lasted 13 minutes in Rivera's office. According to the official memo, Caleb's only recorded statement was, "I want to understand what happened to my wife. I need answers." Rivera replied that the department had conducted a full review and that Reeves would be provided a copy of the investigative file for transparency purposes. The document package included Harmon's statement, forensic photographs, and ballistic analysis. At 10:03 p.m. that evening, Caleb was recorded entering his apartment building alone. No visitors or calls were logged after that time. According to the power utility records, lights remained on in the unit until 3:11 a.m. The following day, he contacted no one. What happened in those hours was reconstructed later from items found in his apartment. A folded ultrasound image hidden inside a paperback book belonging to Naomi, and a note written in her handwriting on the back of the photo. "Surprise for Daddy. 7 months. Don't show until he returns." The medical examiner's records confirmed that Naomi Reeves had been 7 months pregnant at the time of her death. This fact was not mentioned in the police report or internal investigation summary. Caleb Reeves learned about the pregnancy from the ultrasound image, not from the authorities. No follow-up correspondence regarding fetal autopsy or medical procedures was filed. The department's explanation for this omission was clerical oversight. Captain Rivera later testified that the pregnancy had no legal bearing on the classification of the case as justifiable homicide in the line of duty. Reeves did not contest the ruling formally. He did not hire an attorney, issue public statements, or contact the media. He continued to live in the same apartment for several days, rarely leaving. Bank records show small transactions for fuel, coffee, and household goods, suggesting minimal routine activity. His cell phone remained active but registered no outgoing calls after March 27. Neighbors later told investigators that Reeves kept to himself. One resident recalled hearing the sound of a washing machine running overnight for several hours, though the apartment's power usage suggested only one occupant. The rattle from the funeral was later found on his desk beside the ultrasound photo. These objects became the only physical items associated with Naomi's memory found in the apartment. From April 20th to May 22nd, 2023, Caleb Reeves operated alone. Outwardly, he appeared as a grieving widower. Minimal contact, routine purchases, irregular sleep. At night, he parked a 2008 gray Toyota Tacoma near Officer Danny Harmon's residence on East Fayette Street, engine off, taking notes. Pages later recovered showed time logs, plates, and short descriptions of visitors. The entries followed a fixed format learned in service: start time, route, contact, deviation. On May 8th, Reeves met Tiana Brooks, 33, nurse's aide at Johns Hopkins Bayview and Naomi's sister, in a diner on Fleet Street. She handed him a folder Naomi had compiled: property deeds, civil forfeiture orders, tax transfers, and handwritten tables. The focus was Fairmont Street. Over 2021 to 2022, 23 households lost homes after narcotics raids. 9 properties moved within months to LLCs registered to postal boxes. 2 later resold to private buyers at a markup. Margins were listed in Naomi's notes: $38,000, $51,000, $44,000. Tiana stated that Damian Brooks, 36, warehouse worker, lost his home after a raid. Charges against him were dropped. Title was not restored. On July 11, 2022, Damian was found hanged. Ruling: suicide. Tiana added that Naomi suffered a 7-month pregnancy loss in August 2022. The physician cited stress. Naomi concealed this from Caleb and planned to meet a journalist on March 14, 2023 with the file. Reeves listened without commenting. Following that meeting, Reeves expanded his route list. Between May 10th to 16th, he visited former Fairmont residents: Linda Everett, 52, cashier; Anthony Delgado, 28, delivery driver; Rita Osborne, 47, school custodian. Their statements aligned on 3 points: the same unit served warrants, the same names appeared on forms, and personal items vanished during searches. Reeves copied deed numbers and compared them with Naomi's tables. Harmon appeared on 11 warrant packets, Officer Stephen Collins and Officer Marcus Drake on several others. Reeves wrote a column header: Signatures Arrow Asset Path. Late on May 17th, Stephen Collins, 38, left a Lombard Street bar and entered his sedan. Reeves sat in the back seat. He asked about the Fairmont seizures, the chain from warrants to LLCs, and the events of March 14th. Collins resisted, then conceded. He described planted contraband, template affidavits, and quick post-seizure transfers through shell entities. He named 2 intermediaries and alleged that Captain Luis Rivera cleared paperwork. He added a personal factor: his daughter's cerebral palsy, monthly care near $8,000. Reeves recorded the exchange on a small digital recorder. The audio later authenticated includes: Reeves: who managed the buyers? Collins: Harmon lined them up. I signed what came down. Reeves: and Naomi? Collins: she wasn't supposed to be there. At the end, Reeves said, you have 2 weeks to move your family out of the city. At 12:21 a.m., Collins phoned Harmon. He knows. He'll come for us, Harmon told him to remain calm and loop Rivera. Yet no internal memo appeared. On May 18th, Collins' spouse withdrew $7,000 and relocated with their child to stay with relatives out of state. On May 19th, Reeves met FBI Special Agent Marisa Dunn, 46, Public Corruption Unit at the Baltimore field office. He submitted Naomi's folder and the Collins audio. Dunn's intake notes mark him controlled, specific, unemotional. She explained the federal threshold. Subpoenas, financial tracing, and interagency requests would extend the timeline. Her statement to him, recorded in her log: A year is realistic. Reeves replied, I can't wait a year. He signed the evidence receipt and left. Over May 20th to 21st, Reeves reduced digital exposure. Phone use dropped to airplane mode. Purchases shifted to cash withdrawals totaling $2,000. Vehicle stops clustered near storage facilities and light industrial lots by the port. No direct threats were reported, but his notes from this window contained names circled in red: Harmon, Collins, Rivera, and an LLC manager listed only as G. Kettner. On May 22nd at 8:17 p.m., patrol officers responded to a forced entry call at Tiana Brooks's apartment on Orland Street. Entry was a single pry at the strike plate. Electronics were missing. Drawers were undisturbed. Tiana was found deceased from blunt force trauma. Classification: robbery/homicide. Reeves arrived after a neighbor called him. His statement was short. She kept Naomi's documents. Detectives noted he did not display visible emotion and left after identification procedures. By June 2023, the FBI corruption case had been formally opened. Agent Marissa Dunn led the task force from the Baltimore field office. Subpoenas were issued for property records, digital transfers, and departmental communications. Within 3 weeks, evidence confirmed patterns of illegal asset seizures tied to officers Harmon, Collins, Drake, and Captain Rivera. On June 14th, Officer Marcus Drake, 31, reported finding a printed photograph of his 6-year-old daughter taped inside his locker. A red cross had been drawn over her face. No fingerprints were recovered. Security footage from the precinct corridor was deleted from the internal server. Drake informed Harmon, who convened a late-night meeting with his remaining associates at a storage unit owned by a retired sergeant. Collins, already in hiding, did not attend. During that meeting, Harmon presented a compiled background file on Caleb Reeves. The dossier, sourced from military archives, described him as a sniper scout, U.S. Marine Corps, deployed to Afghanistan 2018 to 2019. His call sign, Hawk. The record listed 37 confirmed kills, specialized training in infiltration, and an incident classified as unauthorized field retaliation. His unit had been ambushed near Kandahar in 2019. 11 soldiers were killed. Reeves survived, spending 2 weeks alone tracking and eliminating the attackers. The after-action report included an assessment from an Army psychologist. Displays obsessive-compulsive patterns in the context of revenge motivation. When Harmon finished reading, none of the officers spoke. According to Drake's later testimony, Harmon said quietly, "A professional killer is hunting us." He ordered the team to avoid routine routes and to keep families out of Baltimore. Internal Affairs received no notice of this meeting. No official logs were made. On June 17th, Reeves's landlord reported his apartment empty. Furniture removed, utilities disconnected, lease terminated. He had also quit his temporary construction job without notice. His phone stopped transmitting on June 16th at 2:43 a.m. No traceable banking or GPS data followed. Dunn's case summary described him as unreachable, presumed armed, psychologically unstable. 3 days later, June 20th, Officer Drake received a text from an unknown number. Abandoned warehouse on Port Street. Alone. Last chance cell tower data confirmed the message originated from the industrial district near the harbor, where several unused shipping warehouses stood vacant. Despite FBI warnings, Drake drove there at 10:19 p.m. He parked inside the compound and entered the building. Drake's subsequent statement, recorded hours before his death, was reconstructed from the audio found on a body-worn microphone he had activated secretly. The recording begins with Reeves's voice, calm, deliberate. "Reeves, you still have a choice. Testify, get immunity. Keep your daughter safe, Drake. I didn't shoot her. I swear I didn't." Reeves, "But you didn't stop them." Drake admitted to falsifying reports and witnessing Harmon alter Naomi's warrant file. He claimed Harmon panicked during the confrontation and fired when Naomi turned away. "He said she reached for the gun," Drake said, crying. "It wasn't true. I froze. I let it happen." Reeves remained silent for several seconds, then said, "You'll testify." The sound of a car door closing follows. Investigators determined that Reeves escorted Drake outside, allowed him to leave, and drove away in a separate vehicle. At 11:03 p.m., residents near Port Street reported a single gunshot. Police arrived at 11:27. Drake was found slumped in the driver's seat of his car, engine running, cell phone still recording. The fatal wound was a precise shot to the back of the head through the rear window. Entry clean, trajectory downward, no powder burns. The distance was estimated at 50 meters. No shell casing was found. Forensics identified a 7.62 by 51 mm round consistent with a military-grade rifle. Agent Dunn arrived on scene minutes later. Her field memo read, "Execution-style precision, shooter trained, no errors, no hesitation." Standing beside the body, she stated to a subordinate, "He recorded the confession, then removed the witness. Intent uncertain, silencing, or retribution." The first apprehension occurred on July 6. Officer Stephen Collins was located at a rented house in Hagerstown, Maryland. Agents entered without resistance. During interrogation, Collins confirmed prior statements made on the recording obtained from Reeves, falsified warrants, illegal property seizures, and internal profit sharing. He provided account numbers and named Captain Luis Rivera as the final recipient of diverted funds. Collins requested witness protection, citing fear of Reeves. He was transferred to a secure facility the next morning. On July 8, Captain Rivera was arrested at his residence in Towson. A search warrant uncovered documents linking him to ownership of real estate valued at approximately $1.8 million, distributed among multiple holding companies. Rivera initially denied involvement, later claiming the properties were temporary custodial assets. Dunn's report concluded, "The corruption scheme is structurally proven. Primary threat now is Reeves's parallel operation." Meanwhile, Officer Danny Harmon remained at large. Under internal stress and continuous surveillance, he recorded a personal statement late on July 10. The 23-minute video, later released to investigators, showed Harmon visibly fatigued, reading from a handwritten script. He admitted participation in fraudulent property confiscations and in the falsified narrative of Naomi Reeves's death. His voice broke several times. He cited his wife Elaine Harmon, 39, undergoing treatment for stage 4 breast cancer. Estimated medical expenses, $400,000, uncovered by insurance. Harmon said, "I convinced myself it was survival, not crime. But I killed a woman who just wanted truth. I broke the oath." Hours after recording, Harmon disappeared. 2 agents assigned to his protective unit were found unconscious in a surveillance vehicle outside his home, both with blood tests showing high levels of zolpidem. Their service weapons were missing. At 2:15 a.m., a call traced to a public phone booth near Fairmont Street reported, "A man tied up in an abandoned property." When agents arrived 8 hours later, they found Harmon bound to a chair inside the burned-out structure, once listed among Naomi's confiscation files. Across from him sat Caleb Reeves, holding a firearm at his side. Both were alive when the first team breached the door. The officers froze. Reeves did not resist. The scene was recorded on body cameras from 10:14 to 10:29 a.m. The video shows Harmon weeping, repeating phrases about his wife's illness. Reeves remained silent until asked by agents to stand down. Then he spoke, low and controlled. "After her brother's suicide, Naomi lost our son. 7 months. Stress. I came back from Afghanistan and found out a month later. She built herself back piece by piece, collecting evidence. She said, 'When they're in prison, we'll start again.'" He looked at Harmon. "You killed my family twice. My son, her hope, our future." Harmon responded incoherently, saying it was panic, that Naomi moved suddenly, and he fired reflexively. "I wanted to save my wife," he said. "She was dying. I couldn't pay." Reeves raised his weapon, pressed it against Harmon's forehead. His hand remained steady for several seconds. Then he lowered it. "No. Naomi wanted justice, not revenge. She was better than me." He placed the gun on the floor, cut Harmon's restraints, and told the arriving officers, Call your people. I'm Dunn, Agent Dunn. Coordinating from command vehicles outside, ordered immediate entry. The SWAT team breached at 10:45 a.m. Within moments, 2 gunshots were heard. Officers entering the main room found Harmon slumped in the chair with a fatal head wound. The pistol lay in Reeves's right hand. The barrel emitted smoke. Reeves was on his knees, stating, "He tried to grab my weapon. I was defending myself. Ballistic analysis confirmed the same firearm discharged both rounds. Distance markings indicated the shot occurred within half a meter. Harmon's fingerprints were found on the grip, consistent with a struggle, but not conclusive regarding sequence." Dunn's report read, "Scene replication parallels Naomi Reeves' homicide report. Identical phrasing, identical posture, near identical wound trajectory." Reeves surrendered without resistance. He was transported to federal custody for medical and psychological evaluation. During questioning, he repeated the same line 3 times. He reached for the gun. He refused to elaborate further. No legal representation was requested. When asked why he called agents before the shooting, Reeves stated, "Because she wanted me to stop before it was too late." Following the Fairmont Street incident, Caleb Reeves was charged with second-degree murder and obstruction. Ballistic evidence was inconclusive, and the defense presented the case as self-defense during a struggle. Reeves's military record and the missing surveillance interval inside the house complicated the prosecution's timeline. The FBI kept him under federal custody, labeling him high-risk witness. During the pre-trial phase, investigators discovered a new element. Communications recovered from encrypted servers revealed that 2 weeks before Naomi's death, Reeves had exchanged messages with 4 former Marines from his Afghanistan deployment: Jacob Merritt, Eli Vaughn, Raymond Cho, and Martin Kepler. The correspondence used operational terminology and grid references corresponding to Baltimore's industrial areas. The group arrived in Maryland between February 28 and March 3, 2023, lodging under aliases. Reeves's phone data later showed meetings with them in isolated locations near Patapsco River. Agents reconstructed what appeared to be a contingency plan, structured like a military operation. Reeves was designated bait, responsible for drawing exposure from the police officers tied to Naomi's investigation. The other 4 operated as a detached unit: observation, transport, and removal. Whether the plan was preemptive protection for Naomi or preparation for retaliation remains uncertain. After Reeves's arrest in July, a chain of deaths began. On August 4th, Stephen Collins was found dead in his cell at a federal holding facility. The report listed hanging as the cause. Cameras covering the corridor and cell entry simultaneously malfunctioned for 6 minutes. Guards reported smelling cleaning solution and hearing no disturbance. The rope was improvised from a bedsheet. Forensic analysis detected adhesive residue on Collins's wrists, inconsistent with self-inflicted ligature. On August 9th, Captain Luis Rivera died in what was ruled a traffic collision. His vehicle veered off an interstate exit ramp at high speed and exploded after impact. Tire analysis showed clean cuts consistent with pre-damage by a sharp instrument. Witnesses observed a black pickup leaving the area immediately before the crash. FBI internal notes indicated the same unknown vehicle appeared near both facilities days earlier. Dunn's assessment: external coordination probable, pattern fits small tactical group. The operation ended abruptly on August 12th. Surveillance teams tracked Jacob Merritt, 35, to a storage facility on the Baltimore waterfront. Agents attempted to detain him at 2:30 a.m. Merritt opened fire, striking 1 officer. A shootout followed. He was hit in the abdomen while trying to flee. His phone, later extracted for data, contained a single outgoing call to Reeves's detention center at 2:41 a.m. The call connected for 12 seconds. The recorded statement: "Mission accomplished, Hawk. We're even for Kandahar." The line then went dead. Merritt's body was recovered an hour later in the passenger seat of a burned-out vehicle. When the news reached Reeves, witnesses in the detention block reported a violent breakdown. He struck his head repeatedly against the wall until restrained by guards. The medical log described acute dissociative episode, self-inflicted injuries, verbal repetition of the name Jacob. For several days, he refused food and communication. On September 18th, trial proceedings concluded. Without direct evidence contradicting Reeves's version of events, and given the recorded call for federal assistance before Harmon's shooting. The court ruled the homicide self-defense. Reeves was released under supervision, stripped of firearm privileges, but free of incarceration. Outside the courthouse, 3 men awaited him: Vaughn, Cho, and Kepler, wearing black jackets, carrying a framed photo of Jacob Merritt in uniform. No words were exchanged. They accompanied Reeves silently to the parking area, then dispersed. A single voice recorder found later in his abandoned vehicle contained his last known words: "I did it." "They're gone. Jacob, too. I kept my promise, but I only feel emptiness. She wanted justice. I brought revenge, and I lost the last thing that made me human."